Today we're covering e-commerce optimization. E-commerce optimization is really just talking about all of the different steps where you move from an incoming visitor, from traffic, whether that's online advertising, billboards with a URL or QR code, or campaigns and links from social media that get you to a site or app, and have you walk through those steps that move you from the acquisition of a customer to through the process and adding to carts and using a promo code and putting in your address and looking at shipping and choosing different options, which may or may not be complex. It could be just a few clicks and super simple, and it could be like a credit check or a complex thing with delivery, like a bed with mattress pickup or something like that, that could have, 12, 13, 14 steps. And then making your way to a final confirmation where you purchase something and then get a confirmation email or text and move on from there. So there are a lot more complex models where customers come back, do research, circle around. Let's walk before we run. So we're just trying to get everyone from a homepage through the checkout and that classic sort of sales funnel view that you would see. And we can learn a lot about not just what's happening at the level between steps, but also that overall marketing layer where things are happening with different campaigns and some influencers that are more effective or not than others for your particular audience and product, and also the normal data sort of seasonality and holidays and the other context that's going on in the world with your competitors and the world's economy and all of that. So a lot to cover there, but today, bringing it from the conceptual to the practical to what you would actually look at, we have some examples of where we're going towards. So in general, with this data that you would see in Adobe Analytics or Google Analytics or anything else that you might have ever, it's just about those data points for the unique visitors to each one of those pages. And then we're going to take it a level deeper with looking at conversion rates. So these are just the page visits, and it tells part of the story, but definitely not all. We do see some trends going on here when we're looking at the homepage or about us. You see for this particular mock data for this company, you can see a few increases in mid-January and then at the end. So you're like already thinking something is happening. One of those things is not like the other Sesame Street style, but we don't know quite yet what's going on. Also, you need to bring in the business context of what you know about that company and what's happening for them and tie it together with the numbers you see in the data. One or the other on its own does not tell you much. You need to have that complete picture of the context and the data. So this is just the page visits. When we look at the conversion rate, we start to think a little bit more deeply about what is happening from one step to another. And we can choose what those comparisons are. So you can have a Super Bowl ad driving a whole bunch of people to the homepage, but did any of them add that product to cart? And then did any of them move from that cart all the way to the purchase at the end? So there could be a number of differences that would bring a lot of people there for a Super Bowl ad because they wanted to see it. They wanted to see what the promo was about. It'd be something very exciting, but it might not be shippable to the country there. So if you were a US Super Bowl ad and there was millions of people watching in Toronto, Canada, and there was no shipping to Canada, then that would probably not help your conversion rate for a service provider that is only available in the US. There are many other things that could happen in between those steps as well. So if you add something to cart and you see a high shipping cost for everyone, you might just leave it there and abandon that cart. You might get an email later that says you have an abandoned cart email, but that is one thing that can happen. You could have a credit card processor go down. So maybe that API that connects out to that credit card processor is down, or the one that goes to UPS to calculate the rates, or the one that fills in the address and it has a service that has that perfect USPS formatted address. So lots of things can happen in between there, and you want to figure out, is the page broken? Are the images slow loading? Is there a certain code that's looping? Is there a certain character in your last name that breaks the process, which doesn't count as a valid last name, so I may or may not have that. So lots of things that can happen here, but this is just trying to show you that there are different things going on in the conversion rate than here. And if you just saw this, this would not give you what you need to manage your product and site and team to make the right decisions, because certain things go up and down between those steps that are unrelated. So just showing you some examples here, but what you can do is map that conversion rate on top of the page visit. So this product page visits here are posted and you can see them spike, but the higher color is an overlay, so you can immediately tell where there were high conversion rates and where they were low. So you've got a very low conversion rate, even though there was a bump there. So something tells you about whatever person maybe, or campaign, or technique, or whatever was going on there. They did get some traffic, but it didn't convert. So maybe that one was more or less effective than that one. So you want to think through what they are doing outside the context of what you see on the page. So now we've got our own mock data here that we can explore and do the same thing. So let's start with the dates. This is a lot more data. So we're going to move that to exact date because I want to see exact day. If we look at this at the month, quarter, year, it's just going to be a pretty smooth thing, and we're not going to really figure out if there was something that happened on that exact day that is going on. So we're dropping in dates, although I want to also put date in filter, and we're going to narrow this down since this is years and years of data. Let's go to September 25, and we can do this. We're going to make in the tab, we call this page visits. Definitely add more subtitles and questions for the viewer to figure out if you're going to do this to present it for, but we're just exploring right now, so I'm going to drop that in there real quick. And I'm going to bring in all that page data, clicking shift, drag and drop them into rows. Now we got them all up on there. And what we could do too is measure names is what each of those were, since we can't just put the individual measure on there. The name of each measure is a thing Tableau can just drop in there as a measure name to change the color. I normally don't like more than 3 or 4 colors. We're going to spice it up a little bit here so we can get going. This pattern looks all the same. There is nothing really interesting here at the page visit level, but is there at the conversion level? So let's find out. This is where the story starts, but it's not where it ends. So let's hide the header there too. So all those numbers there, I'm not really concerned since they're on kind of different scales. There's going to be tons more at the homepage than there are at one of those others. I wanted to see the trend. I don't even need to see the numbers. So thinking with a minimalism hat on and a viewer trying to process all the things they have on the screen, and those are a lot of pages. Those are 8 pages, probably too many. I'd really probably try to focus on the 3 to 5 area or something like that. But all they need to know is, hey, it's the same pattern. But let's go to the next step. Let's do the same thing. Actually, let's duplicate that tab so we don't have to start from scratch. And I'm going to take these off. I'm going to take off that one. Let's keep cart. All right, so for the people in the cart, let's see if we can get a conversion rate from cart to final. So what we can do is right-click on that final checkout confirmation page. We're going to click Create Calculated Field, and we're going to call this Cart to Final, conversion rate or conversion percent. And then what we want to do is put the smaller number at the beginning, which is what we're going to. It's most likely going to be a smaller number. There are a few rare exceptions that could be different, but we're going to start with that final confirmation and divide it by a sum of all of those page visits in the cart page. So that calculation is valid. Tableau says we're going to click OK, and so now we've got just the cart visits there, and we can drag and drop that onto color. I'm going to make it thicker so you can see it a lot better. Okay, see where it goes. Awesome. And we're going to change it off the default color because we are sick of having all the same colors up here. Click OK. And so now we can immediately see there's some differences. So this is cart visits versus final conversion. And look at that, we've got a lot more visits on September 4th, but not a lot more conversion percentage rate. So this is not as efficient at converting from the cart all the way to the final. And it happens to be more efficient here, even though it's less traffic. So we obviously need to know more about the business context. Did they hire 2 different people at 2 different times? Did they put 2 different campaigns on TV or Facebook ads or wherever? And that this one brought in less people, but a higher percentage of those people converted through. So this is where we begin our exploration, and we have our start to our investigation on how to optimize. So there's a number of different ways we can do this. Let's create just another one as well. Let's duplicate that first one, and let's take out a few of those as well. Let's maybe do our story to the cart. So you can start at any different points, and I highly recommend doing a whole bunch of these, looking at them overall, and then picking where you see these differences to compare. So we've got our story in the cart page. So I'm going to just do our story, that first one, and I'm going to take that cart page and create a calculated field. And do the same thing again. We're doing sum those visits to the cart page divided by it's about us, and this is kind of assuming the sort of linear flow where you'd actually always go to the about us page, which is not necessarily true. You don't always do that, but we're going to put our simple hat on today and call this about us to cart conversion percents. A valid calculation. We got a new calculation up here. Gonna drop that onto color. We want to change our color again. It's good to have like consistent colors on this if we're doing both of these the same way, and so we can see this a little bit better. Gonna make that super thick so we can kind of see the same deal. So it looks like about the same trend as we saw before. This is about us to cart. Now, we're using color as the conversion rate, but you can use the conversion rates in a lot different ways, and instead of doing that, you could actually do the same thing, and instead of cart, we're just going to take our conversion rates and about us. And what I'm going to do is do a table. Oh, I lost our filters. Let's go to exact dates and table. Doesn't like it. Okay. There you go. So you can do a whole table like this. I only have 2 conversion rates here, but what we can do that's a little bit different is a highlight table. So I'm going to do measure values as the color, and then change the drop down to square, and now we have a much bigger one. It's probably a little harder for you to see it. Let's make it giant. So it would have a bunch more here, but this one gives us the option of seeing the highest ones very quickly with a change in color. And so if you had the 8 or 9 conversion rates here, you can immediately see the ones that pop out as the highest. So on that 2025, September 21st, this one's super fast. So instead of reading through a whole bunch of text or whatever, you can do that with a color. Also, you actually don't even have to have the number on here. So on the label, you could even not show it. So there are plenty of different ways where you could be a little bit more artistic about where you see the data, and here on the axes you have the dates already. So you don't necessarily need to have the number, or maybe you only put the number that is the highest. There's an option for that where you only do the min and max numbers. You don't even have to do the minimum. So that's another way to think like a minimalist and simplify your graphs. So that's how you optimize.